Hi, I'm Tristan Kwong, professional chef. They call me Fruit Sommelier in the streets because my love languages are fruit plates and words of affirmation. Bang! Today we're in the BA Test Kitchen and I'm going to show you guys how to eat rare fruit. Let's get it. So here we have sweetsop. So the sweetsop is native to the Americas and the West Indies. They're in a family of fruits that are often referenced as sugar apples. And while not anywhere close to apple-y texture, this is maybe one of the sweetest fruits that I think you can get your hands on. This is a different varietal that grows purple. And then when they turn ripe, you'll see that in between they get almost pinkish brownish. The biggest factor beyond all that is that when they become ripe, they essentially start to fall apart. And you can pretty much just pick out each one of these pods. These are not the edible bits, these are the skin. But because they start falling apart, you can peel them open like that. So you just kind of suck the thing off the seed. It's just like a little black seed encased in that like white casing of flesh. And these guys are kind of expensive, but they are one of like my more favorite fruit just because they have like such a unique taste and texture. When they are ripe, they become almost like a banana pudding. It's incredibly floral, it's incredibly sweet, incredibly soft. They literally are just like some of the craziest fruit I think you can get. So if I had to present it, I don't know if I would pull it apart like this and eat the seeds as they were. I would try to get a knife through it. They have this little stemmy bit in here that you can't eat. And while the rind is not edible, it is incredibly pretty. So if I were to serve, they would probably be just like this. You can eat them out of the wedge and then spit all the seeds out. Strange and weird and lovely. These are rambutans. They are native to Southeast Asia. The best way to tell if these are ripe is if they are a nice bright color and the tendrils aren't all dry and crispy. And then ones that have gone too far will feel a little bit lighter just because the flesh is shrinking away from the shell. And the tendrils start to turn brown and get a little bit crispy and are easy to like break off. And because they are so wild and crazy looking, I like to keep at least half the shell on to show you like where it came from so it doesn't look just like a tiny hard-boiled egg. Just peel the shell off, pop them in your mouth, scrape the meat off the seed, and then spit the seed out. The sugar in them is a little bit more tart and a little bit more clean compared to like a Longan, which is a little nuttier, a little bit muskier. The flesh is more gummy bear-like. They have a great mouthfeel, but they're delicious. They are a great conversation piece. So these are Abiu. They're native to Central and South America and parts of the Amazonian region. When they're underripe, they have a lot of latex in them, so they're really unpleasant to eat. So you can tell that they're ripe when they turn mostly yellow. A little bit of green isn't too bad, but too green is underripe. So on the inside, you can see that the flesh is like almost translucent and a little bit bouncy. This entire pit here is completely inedible. The outside rind is a little bit waxy, a little bit bitter. Pop the edible bit out, discard the super bitter rind. Texture-wise, I would say closest to a kiwi. Taste-wise, I would say somewhere between an apple and a watermelon. Don't eat the skin. So these are mangosteens. They are native to Southeast Asia. They are some of my favorite fruit just because they're so weird. They start growing off as green, passing through like a red before it gets as dark as this. You can tell when they're ripe because they'll get dark, like I just said, but they also will start to have a little bit of give. I'm sure you can just even hear the difference in sound of like this one is taking on a little bit of a dent here, but this guy, firmer tap. Another cool part about mangosteens is that they have this little flower on the bottom. The petals on the flower will actually tell you how many segments are inside the fruit. No fruit will really let you know, like, this is what I look like inside, except for really the mangosteen. The best way to open them, honestly, I think is with your hands. You just do a little Hulk smash. What you're looking for when you open them up is that the flesh is bright white and not at all translucent. When it starts to go translucent, that means they're a little bit overripe. And they come out just like this. Banging. It tastes like a lychee mixed with a little bit more citrus. The texture is almost like a velvety grape. But in terms of presentation, this looks like a jungle man cracked it open. Yeah, but if I were to serve them, I would slice like this. And the knife will only go in if the fruit is slightly ripe. I would not recommend using a chef's knife, but maybe like a serrated knife so you get a little bit more control. Beautiful, clean, easy. You can even serve them like this and have the right people pop it open. I'll just pop this whole 5-segment bit in my mouth. It looks crazy, it tastes crazy, it is crazy. 10 out of 10 mangosteen. So here we have some coconuts. They're actually on different spectrums of their respective life cycles. While this one is smaller, it's actually older. This is what happens once the coconut falls out of the tree, hangs out in the sand. And they're harder to find because they take longer to sprout. It'll actually take between 4 to 6 months for after the coconut's fallen out of the tree for it to become like this. I'm using a cleaver here because I'm looking for weight. Not with your pointy side, but with the back. It almost looks like I hate to say a brain, but like almost like a brain. But if you were to scoop into this here, you'll see that the inside flesh is white. This would essentially be the root and nutrient system for the rest of the plant as it continued to grow, but it's also completely edible. It's also like a high source of fiber and a lot of different vitamins. Cheers. That's not my favorite, but it's an incredibly strange and fun texture. Way better than a sprouted coconut. These are Tamarillo. They are native to Latin America. I actually have never tried one of these before, so I'm actually pretty excited to cut into this guy. The more red ones are more sour, and the more yellow they are, the sweeter they'll be. So while Tamarillo or tree tomatoes aren't actual tomatoes, you can use the same indicators for ripeness to tell whether they're ripe as you would for a regular tomato. You want to look for ones that are slightly more firm, have a little bit of give, but not too much. And really depending on what the use you have for them, whether you want them to be sour or sweet, look for the difference in color. That's crazy. It looks exactly like a tomato. Does not smell like one though. They smell more citrusy, a little bit more sour. It's like a really sour tomato. That outside rind is also less than edible. That's kind of fire though. I like that. It's like a sour tomato with papaya flavor. They're like weirdly savory for how sour they are. Woo. I think these would be really good in like a salsa, actually. Like it has like the whole salsa component, like the tomatoey plus the sweet plus the sour already like built into it. Yeah, that's straight up like nothing I've ever had before. Here we have cacao pods or cacao fruit. They're native to the Amazon rainforest, and these are the things you make chocolate out of. So ripe cacao pods will have a little hollow sound, like you can feel something rattling around inside of it. It means that the pods themselves have separated from the walls, which means that they're ready to be harvested. Secondarily, if you scratch the surface, under here is a little bit yellow, whitish. That means they're good to go. When they're green, that means typically they're a little bit underripe. Because it's ripe, the fruit has come loose. The only edible part is this little white membrane on the outside of the pod, and the way to eat it is to just suck the flesh off the pod. If I had to say, it kind of tastes like a slightly underripe mango, and the flesh itself is really difficult to remove from the seed, so it's more like a mouth fidget spinner. And this is the thing that you would take, ferment, and crush it. It turns into cacao nibs, and then they get rolled out and pressed, and then they add sugar or milk, and they solidify into chocolate. So this is a Mamey Sapote. These guys are grown and native to Central America, parts of the Caribbean, and Mexico. A lot of desserts use this guy as its base, but mostly not in its raw form. So at the top here, these guys are giving a little bit of give, which is nice. You obviously don't want them to be mush. You do want this little bit of give, but down here, it's pretty rock hard. I don't know how ripe this guy is. Maybe about 60% there. So I'm gonna cut it the same way you would cut a mango or like an avocado. The outside is like super unassuming, crusty, nasty, craggly, but the inside looks beautiful. It's definitely giving sunset. The outside skin is inedible, and the inside big black pit here is also inedible. It's cutting almost like butter. Yeah, so it's actually really sweet, but it does have the texture of like a boiled potato, which is not my favorite. Because the texture is a little starchy, I don't think big pieces would be a good idea. So if I were to serve this on a fruit plate, I would probably cut small, nice little chunks here like this. This tastes great, 100%. I think if you turn this into a smoothie or like a cake even, like it would be amazing. These are finger limes. They are native to Australia. They're called finger limes because they're shaped like little fingers. Ripe ones, like normal limes, will have like a nice shiny skin. It means that the fruit is still producing oil, and you want them to feel firm and not empty. Inside of here are little caviar-like pearls full of lime juice. Chefs like this because it adds acid, but in a form rather than just lime or lemon juice on a plate. Delicious. They're great. They're super crisp and crunchy. Like the pods almost like pop rock in your mouth. Citrus Dippin' Dots almost. As is, I don't know if I would ever put these on a fruit plate, but I could see you squeezing them out and then mixing them with like tahini or like a little bit of sugar to give yourself like solid limeade. Here we have cactus fruit or prickly pear. These are native to the Americas. These are actually cousins to dragon fruit. They'll grow off the cactus like this. See these little dots here? Spines will usually be growing out of these, but for the most part, the spines will come off so that nobody hurts themselves at the grocery store. So ripe ones will have smooth skin. Wrinkles mean that they're overripe. They are very juicy. The color is kind of crazy. They're beautiful. I would serve it in wedges like this. You could even separate the flesh from the rind to make it easier. They taste like halfway between like a dragon fruit, a pear, and a kiwi all together. The seeds aren't super pleasant, but completely edible. You know, you don't gotta be a baby about it. So these are golden berries. They're native to parts of South America. They almost have like this little husk on the outside. You can tell that they're ripe when the husk itself will start to turn a little bit translucent, and you can see like the gold of the berry right through it. Peel the husk off like a tomatillo, and you can eat them raw. They taste halfway between like a sweet cherry and a slightly tart tomato. From an anatomy standpoint, they're built very much like a tomato, has a little bit of tiny seeds inside. They're just slightly more sweet, slightly more tart. The fruit itself is honestly so good that you really don't have to or really don't want to do much to it. They are near perfect as they are. So up next we have a pomegranate. They're not as rare as they used to be. There's one growing behind my house on the sidewalk in Queens. When they are more ripe, the skin will scratch more easily. You can see here, not a lot of effort to peel this guy. This one doesn't want to come up at all. So what I like to do is slice the top here. And you'll see that like they're kind of separated into like these smaller podular segments, but there's like a slightly thicker white membrane between them. Find that little gap and follow it down. Just score the outside, little gap here, pop it open, and you remove this like little center bit here. And that way every single kernel you see is completely exposed. And rather than like taking a spoon and hitting the back of it, you can literally just take your finger, go from underneath. When they're riper, they're more sweet and less acidic, but they still have this like nice tang. There are little seeds inside of here. They are completely edible. Good fiber. I think the best way to serve them is to peel back this little white membrane and serve them in like big chunks like this. They almost look like a geode after you like crack it open. Oh, my shirt and my jacket, no. I thought I was a professional. So these are Longan, which is Cantonese for dragon eye. The Longan originate from southern China. They start out as like little green pods, and as they ripen, they'll go through a yellow phase into a light brown phase like this, and then into a darker brown phase. The ripe one will have a darker shell, but it'll also feel very full, as if there's like a lot of stuff inside of it, almost trying to burst and get out of there. So you can see if I open this one up here, you really just need to peel the outside. The inside pit is black and the outside flesh is white translucent, so it looks just like an eyeball. These are also some of my favorite fruit. They're very closely related to like lychees. These are a little bit nuttier. They taste like sugar water with a little bit of nuttiness on it. It's almost like eating an incredibly firm grape. A lot of the labor comes from peeling the outside, so just scoring them like this. You can even leave half the shell so some people have something to pick it up by. I think it looks kind of cool, almost like a little acorn. So here we have a watermelon guava. They are a slightly more rare varietal of guava. There is no real way to tell the difference between the pink ones and the white ones from an outside visual perspective. You can determine whether a guava is ripe by picking it up and feeling whether it's heavy for its size. And then they'll turn from dark green to like this lighter, almost like yellowish green like you can see here. In an ideal world, you get one with no dark spots on the outside. But if you do see the dark spots, that means it's ready to go, and it's ready to go today, right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut into this and hope that it's pink. Oh, that's white. I was promised a pink guava, so I don't really know what's going on here. Maybe we get lucky. Pink. Oh, there you go. We got a pink one. The seeds are completely edible, and so is the skin, but the skin can have like a bitter taste to it or like a really not so fun aftertaste. And because of that, I like to cut them into little wedges like this. Just separate them from the skin. The texture of it is a little bit grainy. The seeds are edible, though not the most easy to chew. And while they may not be my favorite fruit, they are quite beautiful, especially when you get pink ones and not white ones, white ones, white ones, white ones, white ones. So this is a Korean honey melon. A ripe honey melon will be heavy for its size, so picking it up, tossing it, and comparing it to ones of similar size, and picking a heavy one will help you determine which one is slightly riper. You also want to avoid dents or bruises or demarcations because it'll penetrate all the way through the melon. Even if it doesn't bruise inside, the bruising will like sink through and make the flesh like mealy and not nice. Korean honey melons produce an aroma when they're ready to be eaten. A little bit musky, a little bit sweet, the same way like a honeydew or a cantaloupe would be. But the shades of gold here are like pretty even, but the gaps in between are a little bit less gold. They'll fill out a little bit more as they mature. A little bit of give, like again, not crazy. You just want to feel that it's firm, but like not rock solid. They have seeds inside, so I'll split them down the middle like this. And while these are completely edible, not a lot of fun to eat. And I have put these guys on a couple of fruit plates because the skin is edible. Doesn't mean we want to eat it. So you can cut pretty close to it. They're almost like cucumber-like in texture. If I go like this, you can hear it snap. Crisp, ripe, sweet, like a better honeydew. So I guess you can consider these designer strawberries. This is a company called Oishi, which means delicious in Japanese. These are grown in a warehouse temperature and humidity controlled to mimic the Japanese Alps. So in terms of picking ripe ones, they pick it at the ripest possible time, so you get the ripest possible berry. They do smell incredible. So the best way to do a strawberry, you could do it completely whole. The leaves are not toxic, or you could bite it so that the top remains. These are like actually incredibly sweet. The texture is berry-esque, not crisp, but not too soft. This is not an ad for Oishi. Please send me more strawberries though. So now that you've seen all of our rare mystical fruit, I think I'm about to assemble the most chaotic fruit plate of all time. Some of these fruits might not be super rare to you, but they were incredibly hard for us to source here in New York City. And they can be a little bit daunting to get into, especially if you have no idea where to start. And I don't know, man, she's kind of cute. It's not often that I get to try a new flavor, much less a new fruit. That usually requires you hopping on a plane and going some X thousand number of miles away. And while you might not be able to secure every single thing on this plate, hopefully you can grab a couple of them and they can end up on your plate at home.